Welcome everybody. This is going to be our first video on Visual Basic. Um, this will be kind of a getting to opening up Visual Basic and um, trying to get a project started and looking at the environment. So without further ado, let's move on. So when you're in any device, generally speaking, including on the school devices, if you hit the start button, you will have access to all of your applications. And on the left-hand side, if you scroll down to the V's, if you've installed Visual Studio, you'll see that Visual Studio is available there. If you're working on a personal device, I would suggest that you right-click on this and pin it to the Start menu. That way you'll see it come up every time, just like you can see here. I've got it pinned to the Start menu. You're going to click on Visual Studio, and it's going to open up your drive. Now, once the drive is open, anytime if you've got some recent projects that you've been working on, they will most likely show up over here on the left-hand side. But we want to be able to create a new project right from scratch. So we click on Create a New Project. And we want to make sure that we're working in Visual Basic. So you want to make sure that this up here says Visual Basic. And then you're going to scroll down and you're going to see this Windows Forms app. This one right here is what you want. You want the Windows Forms app. That's what you're going to use for developing so far. Okay, so we click on Windows Forms app, click Next. Okay, now we're going to be putting in some information. So the first thing you have to make sure of is that you are actually giving the project an appropriate name. Notice that it comes up with this default name. Don't use the default name, please. That's going to give you a name that's not really descriptive, and it doesn't tell us much about what the project is. So this is going to be the first application that we work on. So that's what I'm going to call it for my project. I'm going to call it First App. One of the things I would like you to do is when you are creating project names, try to include your last name in the name of the application. That just helps when it comes time to marking your applications. I can kind of see whose application I'm dealing with by looking at which last name is associated with it. Okay, so you can see here I've got my last name and then I've got First App. Notice that there are no spaces in the name of the project. The only thing you can see here is that I have capitalized the beginning of each of the words in my name. Capital W, capital F, capital A for Witty First App. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're using that coding convention when you're naming objects, or that naming convention, sorry, when naming objects in Visual Basic. Next thing you want to do is you want to set the proper location. Do not use the default location here. Now, if you are using a board device, so if you're using a Thames Valley District School Board device, you're going to want to change this to the X drive, which is your Google Drive. If you're using your own personal device, you're going to want to create this to a drive, a folder somewhere that you have saved in your computer. You cannot save to the root location, and please do not leave it as the default location right here. Otherwise, you're going to end up having a hard time finding it later on. So we're going to change this. And if you click the three dots on the right-hand side, it will give you an opportunity to browse. And in my case, I have a folder located. I've got a courses folder. There's my ICS 201 folder. I open up that. And then I usually have a programming folder in here, which I do. I've got a programming folder. Okay, so that's where I want to save all of the projects that I'm going to be creating. So I click Select Folder, and now you'll notice that it's in the proper location. Courses, ICS 201 Programming. Okay, yes, this is my C drive. You won't have a C drive on a school computer, but you will have a C drive on your own personal device. On a school computer, you will be using the X drive. Make sure that this checkbox is checked. That will help also when it comes to actually submitting files. When you have to zip up your files, and everything has to be in the same folder in order to properly zip it. Okay, so we've got our name, we've got our location, and we've got this checkbox checked so that everything gets put into the same folder. Now we can click Create, and it will bring us to a screen. Now, With this application, we're lucky it came up because I've used the program before. It comes up the way I want it to, which is with the toolbox on the left-hand side. Um, it was pinned. When you come in, you'll most likely see it like this. Okay, so you might not actually see the toolbox on the left-hand side. You probably won't see the output on the bottom. You will probably see this Solution Explorer on the right-hand side and this Properties box. We're going to talk about each one of those things right now. So when we're creating things in Visual Basic, you can actually everything that we want, we're going to put on this screen, and we're going to access all the different things that we want from our toolbox. Now you notice your toolbox is hidden on the left-hand side here. You can leave it like that if you prefer it that way. Lots of students do, and I'm okay with that. But I like to pin it by clicking on this little pin icon, this little thumbtack icon. You click on that, and then it pins all of your toolbox objects to the screen. And you notice that I just shrunk that. You can make that as big or as small as you want to give yourself more or less real estate on your screen. I like to kind of give myself a bit more real estate here. And so here we go. We've got our first project. So on the left-hand side is the toolbox. This is where we're going to grab all of the items that we want to put on our screen. This is our form. This is the object that's showing us what the window will look like in our program. On the right-hand side, you see your Solution Explorer. This is all the different files that your program has. And then below that is the Properties window. And this is a very important window as well. And I, again, like to give it a little bit more real estate over here so that I've got more access to things. I also like to group things from alphabetically. I like to choose the alphabetic listing. And then that way I can access the properties much more easily when I'm going in and trying to actually find what it is that I want. Okay. All right. And then across the top, you've got your Start menu. So if you want to run your program, you're going to click this Start menu. And you'll notice that a little output box comes up along the bottom. And right now, there should be nothing going on here, but you can see that our main form comes up. This is what our form looks like. And when we close, nothing's going on here, but we can close it to stop the program. You want to make sure you stop your program before you kind of move on. Okay. So your Start menu is up here. All of your different menu items are available up here. If you get rid of something by accident or you need to find it, you can go into the View menu. For instance, a lot of students tend to somehow get rid of the toolbox by clicking this little X. If you click the X, remember it gets rid of the toolbox. Okay, so it's no longer there. So you need to click on View and then go down to you should see toolbox right here. Okay, click toolbox, and now the toolbox comes back up and you can see it. So you don't want to ever click X on any of these things unless you really don't want to see them. If you want to hide it, all you want to do is click this little thumbtack, auto hide, and then it gets rid of it. Okay, and some students like working like this because they can, again, see more of their form and see more of what they're creating, and then they just go over and click on the toolbox anytime they want to add an item to their screen. So again, really quickly, you've got your toolbox over here. These are all the items you're going to be adding to your form. You've got your form design window here. You've got your Solution Explorer here, which is all the different files that you have in your program. And then down here, you have your actual properties window that has all of the properties for every object on your screen. So just for an example, if I were to put a button on my screen by clicking and then dragging the button onto my screen, notice on the right-hand side now I'm working on button 1. That's selected. You can tell by the little selection bar around the outside. And then on the right-hand side, you can see here, I've got this, all the properties associated with a button are here. So I can adjust the properties, change the properties here in Design Time. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in our next video. This video was strictly to kind of get you an idea of, what Visual Basic looked like, what are the different things. The other thing I guess we need to look at really quickly is the code window. If you double click on an object on your form, so for instance, if I want to code this button, if I double click on this button, it brings me into the code window. And you'll notice another tab has shown up above here. So I've got a tab here and a tab here. So this is my design tab. This is where I can design all of my form by adding objects to the screen. This is where I'm actually going to put the code in that's going to do whatever I want it to. Again, that's for a future video. I don't want to get into that too much right now, but you'll notice that there are two tabs available to you now, one for your code window and one for your design window. In order to get to your code window, you can simply double click on any object on the screen and it will bring you into the sub procedure for that object. Again, we'll talk more about that later, but it brings you into the code window and it automatically creates a sub procedure for the object that you just clicked on. Okay? We'll talk more about what that means later. Okay? So that's it for looking at the Visual Basic environment, looking at how to create a file. If you get stuck, this is what you're going to do. One last thing, sorry, when you want to save your program, if you play your program, it will save it. So if I click play, it has now saved my project because it has to compile it, so it saves it. The other thing you can do is you can click on this Save All button. And if you click on the Save All button, it will automatically save everything in your project and you're ready to go. Okay, that's it. Thank you, everybody, and stay tuned for the next video.